Welcome to the Monday Morning Jumpstart. Hi, my name is Rory Peters and I'm the founder of the Live Like You Mean It live event. I'm a speaker, a sales and leadership trainer, and the author of Sell Like You Mean It and Live Like You Mean It. This week I want to talk to you about competition. There's an ongoing debate as to whether competition is a healthy thing or an unhealthy thing. And we certainly could give examples of both. But in my opinion, if competition is done properly, if it's thought about properly, it is a really healthy thing. Competition was meant to help us become the very best that we could be. That's the purpose. But the problem comes into play when we wrap our egos, when we wrap how we think of ourselves around whether we win or lose. That if we win, it becomes this massive ego boost, and if we lose, we beat ourselves up and call ourselves names, and it becomes a very negative, counterproductive thing. That's not healthy. But if you use competition to push yourself, to take yourself someplace you wouldn't otherwise go, it becomes a very healthy thing. If you don't wrap your ego, your personality, how you look at yourself around whether you win or lose, but instead look at it as simply a tool, then again, it can become a very healthy thing. Let me give you an example of unhealthy competition. When, probably going back about 10 years now, I used to play racquetball a lot. And there was one guy in particular that I worked with that we played racquetball together a fair amount. And we got to the point that we were pretty evenly matched. He was roughly about half my age. And like I said, we played probably 2-3 times a week whenever we could. Now, as I've talked about in other videos, my eyesight isn't the best. And unfortunately, one of the issues with it is that there were days when we played racquetball where my eyes were not able to communicate with my brain properly, and I would literally swing at the ball and miss. Not hit it badly, I would miss. And it wouldn't happen just once, it would happen many times during the course of playing that day. And it drove me around the bend. I got so frustrated and so angry. Now, this friend of mine put up with this with a fair amount. And I knew at the time that I obviously was not a lot of fun to be with at that point. Well, one day he had enough. And he came up and he said, "Rory, I got to tell you something. When you get like this, you are absolutely no fun to play with whatsoever, and I don't even want to be on the court with you. It's just not enjoyable." I took what he said to heart. I knew immediately that he was 100% right. And I set forward to change that. And luckily, though I've not perfected that, I did much, much better. And our competitions became even better. Why? Because I wasn't getting angry with myself because I was swinging and missing. Believe me, inside I'm still, thinking about it, but I was able to say, just let it go, and just keep playing and do the best that I could do. So by making that change in how I approach this competition, I was able to improve our competition and improve my enjoyment and his of our time together. And we both realized that whether we won or lose, we both won. Because we were so evenly matched with each other that our competitions, our racquetball games together were wars. And we would play for about 2 hours. And at the end of the 2 hours, we were both absolutely exhausted. We are a sweaty mess. And whatever we ate that day, we just burned it off. It's gone. And that, of course, was a good thing for keeping ourselves in good shape. So, again, initially, it was an unhealthy competition. I didn't look at it in the right way, and it became a negative thing, especially for the person I was playing, but for me too, rather than a positive thing. And I had to make a change into how I approached that competition. Now, let me give you an example of a positive competition. When I started teaching computer networking, it was a brand new field. It was one of those things, that up-and-coming field that was new people were coming into it, and it was something that not a lot of people knew a lot about. And so those of us who were teaching computer networking, we were learning faster than the students were. I mean, it was an incredible place to be at that time. We were working so hard and just loving it, absolutely loving it, because it was so much fun and such a learning experience. So we were having a great time. So at this point now, the courses are on average about 5 days each. And at the end of each course, there would be an evaluation. And at this point, I was getting good evaluations. I was happy with my evaluations. My boss was happy with my evaluations. So all was going well. Until the day that I looked at a couple of my friends' evaluations. He just got done teaching a class, and I looked through his evaluations, and I saw on 2 or 3 of them in the comments section a statement that said, the instructor was very knowledgeable. I'd never received that. I was told that I was fun, that I was a good teacher, that I was entertaining. I even got I had a nice butt. Seriously, I got that a couple times. But I never got the instructor was very knowledgeable. Well, something immediately went off in my head. And I'm like, I need to get that. Now, it's not that I needed to get it because he had it. The fact that he had it and I didn't meant he was doing something better than I was. And I knew, as good of an instructor as he was, that I was capable of doing that too. So obviously there was something I wasn't doing as well as I could because I wasn't getting those kind of comments. So I allowed that to turn on my competitive mode and to do what I needed to do to attempt to get that kind of feedback from my students, which meant that I was giving them a better experience. So one of the things that I did is I got more certifications, meaning that we would introduce a topic in class, but as a kind of a subset. And we didn't talk a lot about a particular topic. Well, when I went and got certified in those topics. So now when we brought it up in class and we introduced a small segment of it, not only was I able to talk about what the book said about that particular item, but I could expand so much more on it. I could say to them, okay, this is what the book says. Now here's the things they're not telling you. And I would add more into the class. So what's happening? Now the students are getting more value. Right? They're not only getting the information that's in the book, but they're getting the information I've learned along the way as well. And when I started doing that, when I got those certifications, started introducing that information into my classes, all of a sudden I started getting comments that said, the instructor is very knowledgeable. Mission accomplished. Not only that, but because of those changes that I made and other changes, I became Instructor of the Year 3 years in a row. If I hadn't seen those comments on my friends' evaluations, I might not have made those changes. But because I saw them, I used that as a way to push myself, to help myself grow to become the best that I could be. And by doing so, I not only improved my situation, but I gave the students more value as well. And the reward was I got better feedback. So as I said, I believe healthy competition is an exceptional tool. But the key is not to wrap who you are or how you look at yourself around whether you win or lose. I didn't beat myself up because my friend had comments on his evaluations. I didn't put myself down and say, God, you must suck. I simply looked at it as a way to push myself to become even better than I was, to offer more value to my students than I was. Because obviously in my mind that's what was missing. They didn't perceive the value I was giving them as being as high as the value my friend was giving. And so I had to obviously change something to offer more value to my students. So I use that as a tool to push myself to do better. I didn't wrap my ego around it. And don't get me wrong, it felt great when I started getting those comments. That was a really cool thing and I was very proud of myself. But I didn't wrap my ego around it. Just like I didn't beat myself up when I realized I wasn't getting as strong in evaluations as my friend was. Competition is a very healthy thing when looked at as a tool to help you become your very best, not as a way to either boost your ego or beat yourself up. So if you want to become the very best that you could be at somebody, one of the tools, of many tools, is to find somebody who's a little bit better than you are. And figure out why they're a little bit better than you are. And then try to improve in those areas. And that will help you grow and help you become the very best that you can be. I hope this has been helpful for you. I look forward to seeing you next Monday. Have a fantastic week.